If you like what I do, consider joining my channel or donating to my coffee. Links in the description. Whoa! Whoa, 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 whoa! No! They stole my joke! This will not stand! Only I may make terrible puns. This is an outrage, a tragedy, a calamity, a catastrophe. MIO Memories in Orbit is gorgeous and also kind of a mess, but a fascinating mess. A fascinating, gorgeous mess. But I'll get into that here in a moment. Let's set this game up before we dive into all of that. You play as MIO, a small robot girl who wakes up aboard a decaying spaceship called the Vessel, with no memory of what happened and tremors threatening every robot's existence. She sets out to uncover the truth and stop whatever's shaking the walls. MIO Memories in Orbit might be the toughest game I've reviewed to date, and I don't just mean its high difficulty. I'm talking about the pressure. Viewers keep asking when this review is coming, other reviewers have already weighed in with glowing takes, and the game itself is packed with controversial design choices that are, well, wacky. That's the only word for it. Straight up wacky. MIO's trope subversions are bizarre, and a lot of what it does just doesn't land for some Metroidvania enthusiasts. Yet, so many players adore this game. Both sides make sense, the MIO enjoyers and the MIO detractors. And here I am in the middle, trying to break down MIO's brilliance and its shortcomings through a fair, critical lens, while also trying to add something to the discourse surrounding the game. It's not an easy task, but I think I'm up for it, because if there's anything bigger than my love for Metroidvanias, it's my ego.
If there's anything more important than my ego on this ship, I want to cut and shut right now. Hey, come on.
So, where do I even start? I think the best approach is to lay out all the game's quote-unquote controversial Metroidvania design choices, the ones that really ruffled feathers, and turn them into a nice, clean checklist. And here it is. These are the issues I had with the game's wackier Metroidvania design choices. As we go through the review, we'll check them off one by one and see whether these so-called flaws are actual flaws, or if the game turns them into strengths through smart design. Then, during my final thoughts, we'll revisit the list and see how everything stacks up. Sound good? Great. Well, without further ado, let's get into the MIO review.
Combat.
When it comes to MIO's combat, you either like it, hate it, or think it's okay. Sorry, that's an old Mitch Hedberg bit. Your appreciation for MIO's combat comes down to how tolerant you are of its floaty controls. At first, MIO does not feel great to move. There's a real learning curve, and her aerial attacks feel especially awkward. I whiffed so many mid-air hits early on, and her down air, easily the most disappointing move in her kit. It has almost no reach, does 0 damage, and doesn't match the logic of her otherwise excellent hair-based attacks. It's not a deal breaker, just weird. I will say though, after you've gotten over the initial bump and mastered MIO's general movements, combat feels sublime. MIO's floaty because she's supposed to fight in the air. That's her domain. I mean, she starts the game with a double jump. And if you hit or hairpin anything while midair, MIO's double jump gets reset. And later on, her little energy bar resets. But I'll get into that can of worms in the next section. If you've played the Messenger or Bow Path of the Teal Lotus, you'll feel right at home. Hit something in the air, refresh your jump, repeat. If you want, you can stay airborne for an entire arena fight, and the game clearly encourages this because MIO is far more maneuverable in the air than on the ground. Unfortunately, that's where my general combat praise ends. As fun as playing The Floor is Lava during combat can be, MIO's moveset is extremely limited, especially early on. Outside of a dodge, the hairpin, and a mid-game energy shard attack, her combat never really evolves, even though the game has a surprisingly robust modification system, which I'll cover in the progression section. I hope you like MIO's 3-hit combo, because you're gonna see it for the next 20 plus hours. And yes, plenty of Metroidvanias stick with a single basic attack, but those games usually aren't this long. The repetition starts to wear on you. Is it enough to ruin the experience? Absolutely not. I actually enjoyed the simplicity. MIO isn't a combat-focused game. It's a narrative-driven, exploration-heavy platformer that just happens to have a fun aerial combat hook. I can see people loving MIO's combat. I know I did, but I don't think it's the main reason you'll stick around. As a matter of fact, I've heard testimony from people dropping MIO because they hated its combat. And this brings us to the first line item on our checklist: punishing bosses. Let me be real with you. When I first fought the game's early bosses, I'm talking ACAT and Crow, I was stupefied. I could not believe how ridiculously fast they were compared to me. I felt like Mega Man trying to take down Mega Man X bosses. I just didn't have the movement options to keep up. Saying I was downtrodden would be putting it mildly. So yeah, I completely understand why people bounce off MIO early. These initial bosses are brutal, especially when you combine them with limited checkpoints, tedious runbacks, the loss of all your Naker on death, no map, and no mid-battle healing. Gosh, I've basically hit every item on the checklist already. Focus, Luke, focus. But you can see how all these perceived negatives collide in just the first few hours. There's so much stacked against you, and you literally just picked up the controller. I don't blame anyone for getting frustrated and walking away. But what if I told you things get better? What if I told you that this initial discomfort is intentional, not bad design from amateur devs? What if I told you that MIO, Memories in Orbit, is a Metroidvania? It's true, MIO is a Metroidvania, and it wants you to play it like one. Find a boss that feels impossible? That's your cue to explore. Hit another boss that wipes the floor with you? Turn around and explore somewhere else. Eventually, you'll stumble into a fight that feels manageable, unlock a new ability, and suddenly those earlier nightmares become trivial. Case in point, the dodge. MIO's dodge absolutely breaks this game once you master it. It's more of a parry than a traditional iframe roll, and you can do it in the air. And do you recall who kicks ass while in the air? That's right, you kick ass while in the air. That's who. Now you're double jumping circles around these jabronis, and their speed stops mattering when you can negate their attacks with a well-timed dodge. It still takes skill and patience, but with such an OP tool in your kit, your former tormentors quickly become piles of scrap. Or, you can get good, realize your playstyle is too aggressive, and adjust your approach to beat them way earlier. But the choice is yours, and any path to victory is worth celebrating. I'm an aggressive player myself, so I was totally fine shelving the early bosses until I found the dodge. Even though I wasn't even sure the dodge existed. I trusted the devs to know what they were doing when building a proper Metroidvania, and that trust paid off when exploration turned out to be the answer. Honestly, not many Metroidvanias start with this level of confidence. It was genuinely refreshing. So, our first checklist item, debunked. The bosses are punishing, but only if you let them be. With proper exploration and engagement with MIO's world, I don't think most players will find the bosses all that difficult. Vin and Soul are a bit rough, and the final boss of the normal ending slapped me around for a while, but overall, I didn't hit many major roadblocks. In fact, I had a blast with most of them, especially the hand. That fight is the best showcase of MIO's aerial combat. But let's say you are struggling. MIO has this ingenious accessibility option called Eroded Bosses, which lowers a boss's HP and/or defense, I'm not really sure, every time you retry. It's brilliant because it eases the difficulty without removing the need to actually learn the fight. And psychologically, it works wonders. You always feel like you're progressing even when you're losing. At least That's how it felt for me when I tested it out. Before we move on, I want to quickly hit 2 more checklist items: losing all Naker and unconventional healing. I can't really defend these. They're odd design choices with strong narrative implications, and you just have to kind of deal with them. That said, both can be mitigated. For Naker loss, you can find modifications and robots that crystallize your currency so you don't lose it to that stupid pool. And truthfully, Naker becomes so abundant later on that you'll be buying out Mel's shop frequently. It's painful early, negligible later. As for unconventional healing, yeah, paying money at basins to heal is weird. You can remove the fee with a mod you find pretty early, but outside of mods and accessibility options, you'll always need a basin to patch yourself up. There is no mid-battle healing. It's not ideal, but it didn't bother me too much. You just have to accept that healing during boss fights isn't part of the game's vocabulary. It's a tall order, but one I thought was worth adapting to. And that's it for this section. MIO's combat is a strange mix of awkward and exhilarating. Clunky at first, sublime once mastered, but ultimately limited in depth. Its floatiness, simple moveset, and repetitive 3-hit combo won't work for everyone, yet its aerial flow and clever mobility give it a charm that kept me engaged. Combat isn't the star of the show. It's the supporting act for the real heart of the game: exploration, narrative, and platforming. But don't get it twisted. MIO's combat is great, and playing the floor as lava with a fun rogues gallery of bosses never gets old. And with that, we can check off 3 of our controversial design choices: punishing bosses, losing Naker, and unconventional healing, and move on.
Abilities, platforming.
Oh, a baby. This is what I'm talking about. Finally, a Metroidvania where people complain about the platforming difficulty instead of the boss difficulty. Unless you're Eterna Noctis, where everyone complains about both. I'm just messing with you, Eterna Noctis. You know I love you. If you've been lurking around the internet with even a passing interest in MIO, you've probably heard about the game's brutal platforming. Maybe you even heard whispers of the Crucible. I'm here to tell you, it's true. All of it. MIO's platforming is glorious, and honestly the part of this review I've been dreading, because words really can't do it justice. It's something you have to feel to understand, but I'll do my best, and the best place to start is with the tools or abilities you have to work with. MIO starts with a double jump and eventually picks up the hairpin, the hover, and the spider crawl. The hairpin pulls you toward enemies or flings you off objects, the hover is exactly what it sounds like, and the spider crawl lets you climb surfaces. Pretty standard stuff on paper. However, where the nuance comes in is with the energy meter at the bottom of the screen. All 3 of these moves require energy to use. The hover and the spider crawl deplete the meter over time, while the hairpin requires a full energy bar to use. Missing even a sliver means no hairpin, which can lead to some very sticky situations. Later, you unlock the ability to refresh this bar mid-air by hitting something just like you're refreshing your double jump. And that mechanic, the mid-air recharge, is the foundation of every major platforming challenge in the game. It's simple, but the ways the devs push you to engage with it are incredible. MIO's platforming is aerial, expressive, and constantly asking you to think 3 moves ahead thanks to the energy bar restrictions. So, in a phrase, MIO's platforming is some of the best the genre has to offer, from its moment-to-moment platforming to the insane segments the devs have concocted. If you're looking for an MV with platforming that'll make you sweat, look no further than MIO. This is the part where I normally talk about each biome and its gimmicks, but I really don't want to spoil much. You've got ice you can speed skate on and rocket off of, fans that push you around, and lots of plant life that want you dead. Every biome brings its own hazard, and some of the later ones flip the script in really clever ways. As for puzzles, MIO doesn't have a ton of variety. You'll get a few environmental puzzles, spotting clues in the background, and finding key items, but the real star of the show is the comical number of doors locked from the other side. If it's not a meme yet, it will be. But those locked doors are actually integral to the world design, which brings us to our next checklist item: lack of checkpoints. It took me about 3 hours to find my second checkpoint. That means every early game death sent me all the way back to the hub at the beginning of the game. Demoralizing? Absolutely, but it's not as bad as it sounds. MIO's early map and biomes loop back on itself constantly. The hub has 3 levels, and most of your early exploration is just branching out from one level, fixing elevators, and circling back from another level to unlock all those other side doors. Eventually, that single checkpoint becomes the most convenient place to respawn. And this design philosophy carries through every biome. Will there be moments when this singular checkpoint setup is inconvenient? Of course, but the world's so smartly interconnected, full of shortcuts, loops, and clever routing, that the issue becomes irrelevant once you get your bearings and understand what MIO's doing with its world. Soon, opening up a biome and all its shortcuts becomes exciting in its own right. And thus, this design issue on our checklist has been debunked. The lack of checkpoints is an intentional design choice that makes MIO's world feel cohesive, organic, and rewarding to navigate, even if the number of locked doors borders on being a running gag. And that's it for this section. MIO's platforming is a masterclass in the genre, a brilliant blend of tight mechanics, clever energy management, and wildly inventive level design that constantly pushes you to think, adapt, and execute with precision. Its biomes, hazards, and shortcuts all feed into a world that feels cohesive, intentional, and deeply rewarding to navigate. If you enjoy tough, expressive, and cleverly constructed platforming, MIO delivers some of the best the Metroidvania genre has to offer.
Progression.
On the Metroidvania spectrum, MIO leans more Metroid-like with a heavy dose of Hollow Knight. There's no leveling, no skill trees, no gear, but there is a modification system. HP and damage are the only stats you can increase. HP through the classic collect 4 of a thing, and damage through rare upgrades found on dead keepers scattered around the vessel. Mods function more like Nier Automata than Hollow Knight charms. You have a limited number of units, each mod costs a certain number of units, and you expand your capacity by finding items, buying upgrades from Mel, or equipping a mod that increases units at the cost of a debuff. Some mods are expensive, so early on, you have to be frugal. I wish you could upgrade mods to reduce their cost. It would have made a great late-game Naker sink. Speaking of Naker, Mel's shop in the hub is where you'll spend most of it, assuming that stupid pool hasn't stolen it from you. Mel sells mods, HP fragments, and more, and her inventory expands as you rescue her helpers throughout the world. It's a great incentive to explore thoroughly. Side quests in MIO are plentiful, but never formally assigned. You just stumble into them, rescuing helpers, assembling access codes, hunting candles, unlocking the true ending path. The rewards range from mods to entire new biomes to juicy lore drops. They feel organic and rewarding, naturally woven into the main journey. The strangest part of MIO's progression, though, is the tremors. The first time it happened, I had no idea what was going on. The screen flashes white, MIO faints, and your max HP drops by 1. Permanently. It's jarring, and it feels like punishment for something that you didn't even do. But it's narrative-driven, and it's fascinating. Every robot on the vessel has a life bar, NPCs and enemies alike, and tremors reduce everyone's HP, not just yours. It's a unique mechanic that raises the stakes and reinforces the story in a way I've never seen before. What's funny about the tremors, though, is that they're triggered by location, not by time. If you don't go to certain areas, you won't trigger a specific tremor. I actually beat the game with its true ending and triggered 2 more tremors during post-game cleanup. I just thought that was kind of funny. And that's it for progression. MIO's progression is a smart, tightly woven system that trades traditional RPG growth for exploration-driven upgrades, clever mod customization, and some of the most organic side content in the genre. Mel's shop, the scattered keepers, the world's hidden quests all feed into a loop that rewards curiosity, while the tremors stand out as a bold narrative mechanic that raises the stakes in a way few Metroidvanias attempt. It's unconventional, sometimes strange, but always purposeful, a progression system that keeps you engaged not by grinding, but by discovery.
Exploration.
MIO's exploration is top tier. No two ways about it. If exploration is why you play Metroidvanias, MIO has you covered. Every biome is exciting, full of hidden paths, secrets, and strange little events waiting for you to stumble into. It's one of those games I just couldn't put down because I always wanted to see what was around the next corner, and I was rarely disappointed. Outside of the tremors and the sequence with the hand, nothing felt choreographed. MIO regularly allows you to experience its world in real time just so you can soak in its world, and it's wonderful. And that spider crawl move. My God, it's so fun to use and opens the world up in fascinating ways. There's something deeply satisfying about crawling into a tiny hidden hole and discovering a whole new biome or mod. Backtracking with new abilities feels natural and makes the vessel feel like a truly interconnected space rather than a series of levels. And let's talk about geometry for a minute. MIO's world looks and feels real thanks to its uneven floors and surfaces. There are so many Metroidvanias out there that use a blocky level design template that make their worlds feel too sterile. In MIO, every location has its own distinctive landscape with crags that jut out and overgrowth that makes traversal and even visibility a bit tough. MIO's world is geometrically imperfect, and it's perfect. Running around in MIO's world truly feels like you're exploring a world, not a level. And this world is huge, with several optional biomes you can completely miss. Some of these biomes exist purely for world building. The lengths this game goes to make its world feel real and worth exploring is incredible. The only critique I have is the last item on our design choices checklist, the map. MIO's map is excellent once you have it. Accurate room shapes, automatically marked points of interest, custom markers, even flashing lines showing unused exits. The weird part is that you don't get the map until you've donated enough nacre to the pool in the hub, and most of those donations will be involuntary because that's where all your money goes when you die. It's a strange choice. I get the narrative reason, but do not mess with my Metroidvania maps. That's the one thing I won't sacrifice for story. So, is the map really an issue? Not really. It's odd, but once you unlock it, everything is smooth sailing. So, debunked. As for fast travel, it's different, but not bad different. You can't fast travel in a biome until you find its overseer, the creepy guy who hugs you at checkpoints. Once you find him, fast travel opens up. It's straightforward and a neat way to prevent instant warping the moment you arrive somewhere new. And that's it for exploration. MIO's exploration is nothing short of exceptional. A sprawling, interconnected world packed with secrets, optional biomes, clever ability-driven routes, and a sense of discovery that rarely feels scripted. Even its quirks, like the odd map unlock requirement or its overseer-gated fast travel, ultimately support a world that's meant to be learned, unraveled, and lived in. If exploration is your favorite part of Metroidvanias, MIO delivers one of the most rewarding, organic, and downright delightful worlds the genre has seen in years.
Atmosphere. Narrative.
What can I even say about MIO's presentation? You can see it with your own eyes. It's beautiful. The art direction is stunning. Every biome feels handcrafted with intention, from the soft glow of the vessel's machinery to the eerie, decaying beauty of its forgotten corners. Character models are expressive without ever feeling busy, and the color palettes shift just enough between areas to give each biome its own identity while still feeling like part of a cohesive whole. The character designs are adorable. MIO herself is this perfect blend of cute and mechanical, with animations that give her so much personality despite her simple silhouette. The NPCs and enemies follow suit, quirky, charming, and always memorable. There's a warmth to the designs that makes the world feel alive even when it's rusting away, and you genuinely feel sad when you come across a dead robot. But the real star of MIO's atmosphere, at least for me, is the music. The soundtrack is phenomenal. It's one of my favorite things in the entire game. Though the tracks can sound like upbeat electronica bangers, Many tracks have this ethereal, melancholic quality that reminds me so much of Nier Automata, which is high praise considering Automata has one of my favorite soundtracks ever. MIO's score captures that same emotional resonance, soft vocals drifting in the background, haunting melodies that swell at just the right moments, and ambient tracks that make exploration feel almost meditative. It elevates every moment from quiet wandering to high-stakes platforming and gives the vessel a soul. Let's give a quick listen, shall we? MIO's atmosphere isn't just pretty visuals and good music. It's the way all these elements work together to create a world that feels lived in, mysterious, and worth exploring. It's cohesive, it's evocative, and it's easily one of the game's greatest strengths. MIO Memories in Orbit delivers its narrative with a quiet confidence that sneaks up on you. This isn't a game that bombards you with exposition or lengthy cutscenes. Instead, it trusts you to piece things together through environmental storytelling, cryptic NPC dialogue, logs, notes, and the strange, often unsettling events you stumble into while exploring the vessel. Reviewers have pointed out how MIO's story feels ambient or absorbed rather than told, and that's exactly the magic of it. The narrative is something you inhabit, not something you're lectured through. The world itself does most of the heavy lifting. Every biome feels like a fragment of a larger mystery, and the way the game reveals information, in scraps, in whispers, in the aftermath of events you weren't present for, keeps you constantly leaning forward. You're always wondering what happened here, who built this place, and why everything feels just a little bit off. Even the smallest discoveries feel meaningful because the game never over-explains them. It gives you just enough to stay hooked, and then lets your imagination do the rest. What really sells the narrative delivery is how seamlessly it ties into the gameplay. The tremors, the shifting HP bars, the strange behavior of NPCs, these aren't just story beats, they're mechanics that are the story. Reviewers have praised how MIO blends narrative and gameplay in a way that feels organic, and I completely agree. The vessel feels alive, reactive, and fragile, and you're constantly reminded that you're part of something bigger than your own journey. And despite its minimalist approach, the emotional beats land. There's a melancholy running through the entire experience, a sense of loss, decay, and hope buried under layers of rust and circuitry. It's subtle, but it sticks with you. By the time the bigger narrative moments arrive, they hit harder precisely because the game has spent so long letting you live in its world rather than explaining it to you. MIO's narrative isn't loud or flashy, but it's incredibly effective. It builds a world that feels mysterious and alive, rewards curiosity, and keeps you engaged not through plot twists, but through atmosphere, discovery, and the constant sense that you're uncovering something meaningful. It's storytelling through exploration, and it works beautifully. There are a couple of endings to get in MIO, with the true ending being this incredibly cool series of events and platforming gauntlets that has led to many gamers rage quitting. But if you stick around for the spoilers, I might know someone who can help you out. Go to this timestamp to skip spoilers and fast travel to my final thoughts and score.
Spoilers.
Hey, welcome to the spoiler section, where everything is brought up and the format don't matter. I'm going to be lazy with this one, as I actually found a YouTuber named Chad who has an excellent MIO video that showcases some really cool things he's discovered. Mr. Chad was so kind to grant me permission to share his findings and footage. I highly suggest you check him out. He has Hollow Knight content and Last Faith content and some more MIO stuff, including a lore video. Link to his channel can be found in the description and pinned comment. Anyway, one of the coolest things to do in a Metroidvania is to sequence break. And MIO has some pretty dang good ones. And I'm not talking about getting that key card early so you can open a door a little sooner. I'm talking skipping the toughest part in the entire game, the platforming gauntlets in the Crucible, and going straight to the final area without needing the flowing steps. I'll let Gutenchad explain.
And last but not least, to get to Harry, I did a library skip. Using tight movement and applying the Strider boost, you can actually reach the library from the canopy without ever going to the Crucible to get the flowing steps.
How freaking cool is that? So, for all those people who haven't seen the true ending yet because they're having a tough time with the gauntlets, you should check out this skip. But that's not even the coolest thing Gutenchad showcases. Did you know you can actually skip the final boss of the true ending? It's true. Just don't give she and the spine any nacre. Easier said than done, as that requires you to limit your deaths and deprives you of viewing the in-game map whenever you want, but how freaking cool is it that the devs even thought to allow you to do this? And there are plenty of other skips to bypass areas and bosses. Go check out Gutenchad's full vid to see for yourself. It's exciting to think of all the ridiculous stuff the community will find over the next few months, and it's amazing to think that the devs accounted for all these secrets and hidden techs. They've laid the foundation for a truly legendary Metroidvania.
Final bots and score.
When all's said and done, MIO Memories in Orbit is one of the most ambitious, confident, and creatively designed Metroidvanias I've played in years. It's a game that knows exactly what it wants to be, a tough, expressive, exploration-driven adventure with killer platforming, a haunting atmosphere, and a world that rewards curiosity at every turn. And yes, it stumbles a bit in the opening hours, and that's why I built the checklist in the first place. Punishing bosses, losing all your nacre, unconventional healing, limited checkpoints, the map unlock. All of it can feel like a lot when you're just starting out. But as we've seen throughout this review, many of these issues melt away once you understand how MIO wants to be played, and when you get over that initial opening speed bump. The seemingly impossible opening bosses become manageable once you embrace exploration. The checkpoint system reveals itself as intentional world design. Even the map, weird as its unlock method is, becomes a non-issue once you have it. Nacre loss kinda sucks with no way of getting it back after death, but this loss can be trivialized through mods and helpful robots. The unconventional healing, however, never really resolves itself. You can get a mod to make healing at basins free, which is helpful, but you still can only heal at basins. There's a mod and an accessibility toggle that offers healing options, but you never truly have a healing technique you can use mid-battle or at the press of a button. As you can see, a majority of these issues aren't long-term problems. They're early game growing pains, and if you trust the developers and push through, you'll find a game that blossoms into something truly special. I award MIO Memories in Orbit a 9.5 out of 10. MIO Memories in Orbit is available on PC, Nintendo Switch 1 and 2, PS5, and Xbox Series X and S. I played MIO Memories in Orbit exclusively on the Steam Deck. I found performance to be poor on the default graphics preset of high, but setting it to medium fixed performance and the game still looked fantastic. Therefore, I give MIO a Steam Deck rating of verified.
Pair placement.
MIO Memories in Orbit isn't a good Metroidvania. It isn't a great Metroidvania. It's one of the best Metroidvanias to exist. Its combat, though simple, feels fantastic. Its platforming is exceptional with thoughtful mechanics, creativity, and a clear vision. Its progression systems are clever, consistently rewarding, and keep exploration meaningful. Its exploration is engaging, highly rewarding, and captivating. And its atmosphere and narrative wrap around everything elegantly to make an incredibly engrossing experience. There are no two ways about it. MIO Memories in Orbit is the Metroidvania to beat. MIO Memories in Orbit unlocks the door to the S tier. I'm not sure how people will feel about MIO dethroning Hollow Knight, but MIO really is that good and deserves the top spot. The game has some early game issues that could turn players off, but a little trust in the game's vision goes a long way. I implore anyone who gave up on MIO within the first few hours to give the game a little more time, because what awaits you beyond its early turbulence is truly something epic. All hail the new queen of Metroidvanias! MIO Memories in Orbit is an exceptional experience, and it definitely left its mark on MIO.